when I came home, for some reason, I just couldn't get a key, like the key in the lock to undo the lock. There was a time in my life where I would have actually had a meltdown over that. Like, I'm not
Wow.
kidding. I'm not kidding. And it is hilarious. You can laugh because that's how dysregulated I was. But that
Mm.
was a day-to-day occurrence. This was a one-off.
Yeah.
I can't remember ever having an experience like that in the last 6 years at least. But before that, it was a daily occurrence.
Wow.
Everything threw me off.
Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the Awakened Entrepreneur Show. I am Juan, your host. Most of you probably already know that. And I am back with a brand new guest, my friend Amelia. We're actually doing this in person. This is the first time I do a podcast episode in person. And it's because she pushed me to do it because I need to get out of my comfort zone.
You're welcome.
So, welcome. I'm so excited to talk with her. I met Amelia a few months ago, actually. Well, it's going to be a year now. Yeah. So, really funny story. When I moved to Bali, these girls came to me at a coffee shop where I was working, and they told me they followed me on Instagram, and we became friends. And they invited me to go out with their friends. They posted a story on Instagram, and she's friends with them, and she was already following me as well on Instagram. And we happened to go to the same gym, so she messaged me, and you thought that I was never going to reply, no?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's got like hundreds of thousands of followers. I'll never even see it, let alone reply.
I do try to reply. I mean, I actually take time to reply to everyone who messages me.
I
Like,
admire that.
yeah, and even if my account continues growing, I think this is something that I still want to do because it's, there's
They're
a
human
human.
beings.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I hate when people don't respond. And I've had experiences with other influencers that also have big audiences that don't respond. So
Mm.
yeah. But anyways, as you can see, we're probably gonna go on off on a lot of tangents. But that's what I love about these conversations. So Amelia is the founder of Be Heard Social. It's a social media agency. She does content strategy, content creation, management.
Yeah, I'm not an agency anymore. I've done agency stuff in the past, but like I'm shifting now to more of a like one-man band with trusted partners basically who can fulfill other things. But I trailed it. I didn't really want to be managing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was never my dream to build an agency.
But I guess you could just say like, I don't know, content marketing or social media business rather than agency.
Well, you are a content strategist,
I am.
content marketer,
Yes.
social media strategist.
Yes.
You are all of these things.
Yes.
So
I want to focus more now on leadership and self-leadership through the work I do as a service rather than direct coaching.
okay,
I haven't actually announced it on social media yet, but I'm surprised I haven't told you about it.
yeah, you haven't.
It's just background. So you can like reframe this and then go back to your script because I know I've totally thrown you off.
One of the things that I love about Amelia and having her as a friend is that she's always pushing me to get out of my comfort zone. She lovingly calls me out and pushes me deeper into my truth. So, for example, whenever I'm doubting something, I remember this one time I told her, like, I have so many content ideas that I want to post, but I don't want to be posting like 3 to 4 times per day. And she was like, why not? And you always tell me, like, why not? Why not? And like, you make me go deeper and think, like, yeah, actually, why not? Who creates all of these rules? So I love that about you. But I want to start talking about your journey because this is the Awakened Entrepreneur Show. We talk about your journey, your experience, your challenges. Yeah, so you've been a digital nomad for a while now. I would love to learn what drew you to digital nomadism first in the first place.
Initially traveling. So I graduated from university and immediately went and did Camp America, which is this thing where you go to America and you work as usually a counselor or some kind of activities guide for the kids that come to the camp. And when I was there, I booked a one-way ticket to Thailand because I was like, if I don't do it now, I absolutely will bail when I get home because I'll be scared and there's no way I'll do it. So I'd graduated, I went and did Camp America, I was in upstate New York, and then booked one-way ticket to Thailand, came back, graduated, and then 2 weeks later left for my flight to Thailand.
How old were you?
21. So I graduated university at
Wow.
21. It was the summer of that year. I just turned 21. And then I was just like, yeah, I'm going to leave. Because when I was in America, I just got this taste of like something different. It was just so different from what I've been brought up in, so different from what I'd experienced so far. I was like, I don't know what this is. I remember distinctly being like, I don't know what this is, but I want more of this, whatever this is, which was sort of encouraged me to travel. And then a few years of traveling, I was doing casual work, stop-start work. It was like save up money in a casual job, go and spend it all traveling, save up money again. And eventually I just got a little bit tired of it, which is when I sort of shifted and met this one girl in New Zealand actually. And she was part of a business mastermind. And so I just kind of dropped her a message and I was like, oh, I see you like working online. Like, what is that? And that was sort of my initial step into the online business world and digital nomading.
It's super interesting. I also have a similar story of how I started digital, being a digital nomad on my
Mhm.
business. I used to work at this really cool company in Barcelona, and one of the girls that was in my team, she quit and she actually moved to Bali and she started offering her services online. She had a website and everything, and I was just like so in awe of like how the hell did she do all of this? And she's
Yeah.
in Bali. I want to be in Bali, so I dropped her a message as well. And she, oh, actually, it's super easy. You just like create some packages and like you reach out to some people. And she made it seem so
It's
easy.
just so easy. That's what I was picking up on there.
But yeah, that's how I got like initiated into this whole thing, and here we are
Now in Bali.
now in Bali, living the life. So, how did that lead to like from your first remote gig? How did that lead you into founding Be Heard Social?
Good question. The two kind of go hand in hand. I failed a couple of things. So when I first started looking at online businesses, I tried online business management. I tried high ticket affiliate marketing, and none of it seemed to really align with me.
Mm,
And a lot of people say that what they went into, they fell into really naturally. And that was actually never my experience. Like everyone who's like, oh, it was just so easy.
mm,
That was not my experience. I think I had been traveling and looking into online work for 2 years maybe before I ever got my first client. I was trying, but actually I ended up investing in that business mastermind, and what that set off was me realizing and facilitating how much personal work I had to do on myself before I could ever get to a position where I was able to start my own business, because I
mm.
had such a lack of self-worth that if I didn't believe in myself, how was I going to get anybody else to believe in me? So did that for 2 years before I even got my first client. And then my very first client, she said she was interested, and I'm still working with her now.
Oh wow.
And she turned around and she was like, so I was just like, okay, I'll take anything here. I just want to be making money. And I was in the UK at the time, actually had gone back to visit and travel and gone back to visit people after traveling. And I was just like, what's your budget? She told me. And I was like, sweet, let's do it. Like that was my very first client. I had this idea in my head of packages that I wanted to go with, I think, and how I should be selling myself for more. But I was like, I've got bits of experience here, but I just want anything. I'm just going to take anything here at this point. And so that was sort of my first client as a result of a lot of people coming and asking me about social media in the first place, actually.
And with this first client, was it like enough for you to live your life?
No. Oh, no. I'm talking about it was like 100 and something
Oh
pounds.
wow.
Yeah, a month. Like
Yeah.
it's gone up since then.
I
Probably
hope so.
probably not as significantly as it should have, if I'm being very honest. I literally forgot about it for like a good while. So definitely hasn't gone up as much as it should. But no, it was not enough for me to live on, but it was enough to like get me started and get my foot in the door.
Yeah, my first client was like 300 euros a month,
Yeah.
like $300 a month because they were Canadian.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we all start, right? We just take whatever we can get,
Yeah.
to get us started and
Yeah.
learn. But it's great that you've kept it. It means that, she likes your work. That's
Yeah.
great. Even if the rate hasn't increased as much as you would have wanted to. But
Mm.
I mean,
Good retention.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
And one of the biggest ways to increase your revenue is to retain your clients.
Yeah, 100%.
Because then if you're just finding new clients and adding on, you're not replacing anything that you've lost.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the best ways actually
Yeah,
to
that's
grow a
actually a really
business.
good lesson that I've learned from my business coach. And she recently had one of her best months in business, and she used to spend a lot of resources getting new people into
Mhm.
the business to a coaching program that was like 3 months. But then most of them would finish 3 months, and then they would go like on to the next one that would
Yeah,
offer them whatever like the next level
the
thing.
next
So
step.
she actually created different tiers or layers inside
Yeah.
of her business, and now most of her income in that month came from retention for
Yeah.
people that moved on to the next level. So
Mhm.
that's a great business advice. So let's talk about your tagline, which I love, which says, "The more you trust your voice, the more your audience will." What inspired that?
What inspired that was that For the longest time, I didn't trust my voice because for an even longer time before that, I didn't have my own voice. And I think my voice had become an accumulation of what I thought I needed to believe and a lot of what I thought I needed to think to stay safe initially, probably, or like originated from trauma. So I didn't have a voice, but again, it sort of comes back to that concept of how much personal development work I had to do before I could even contemplate starting a business and selling myself, because you can't, just like I don't think you can love somebody else until you at least love yourself to an extent,
100%.
and that you can't fully connect with somebody else unless you've connected with yourself, that you can't sell yourself unless you're sold on yourself. And I fundamentally was not sold on myself at all.
I feel this is very common among most entrepreneurs
Yeah.
today, especially showing up online. Like they don't trust their voice enough, and that's why they don't see the results they expect whether it
Mm.
comes to content or sales. Like I include myself in this because I've been through this journey where, yeah, I experienced like maybe a quick high at the beginning, but I wasn't really being myself. I was hiding behind a lot of educational content and trends, and it worked back then. But then it took me a long time to actually figure out what my voice is. Up to up till recently, actually, and we were talking about this today. It's like
Mhm.
I pivoted so many times since the beginning, and nothing seemed to click. And I tried so many different themes and topics and niches, and all of a sudden, from one day to another, something clicked, and I just decided, okay, I'm no longer that. I'm gonna be this new person, this new identity. This is who I really am, and this is I
Mm.
feel passionate about this. I've grown almost 10,000 followers in the past week
Yeah.
after just doing that. So,
Yeah.
and I feel that my content is really, really sticking, and but it took me 3 years to figure it
Mm.
out.
Yeah. And I think even it will be even longer for a lot of people as well, because you've been in the social media world for
Yeah.
so long. And one of the things that you spoke to is, well, why not post 3 or 4 times a day? Your level of growth through that contact, because I always say contact creates clarity. That contact with content, that contact with the world, that contact with people, that contact with seeing how your audience responds, seeing how Instagram responds, seeing how social media platforms respond is exponentially accelerated with
Yeah.
the amount of posting that you've been doing and the amount of then feedback you get from that, and inner feedback as well that you get from going like, oh, well, I didn't really align with that as much. Okay,
Mm.
that's not great. Oh, I'm going to pivot. Or, you've, I think, sped that process up so much. But I'm feeling the same way. As you said, we were talking today about how people talk about energy all the time. This is
Mm.
the one thing. And I don't think this relates to a lot of people who don't consider themselves to be particularly spiritual yet, or spirituality is new to them. I think energy sounds very intangible and very not something that they can align with. But we were just talking today, I think it's about passion. And that's probably a word that a lot more people can relate to if they're not as far along on their spirituality journey yet. And just having, when you have passion, there's absolutely no questioning your confidence in it. If you're talking passionately about something, you're not going, I wonder, oh, I don't know if this is true.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just full embodied confidence. And I think that's what the word passion sort of encapsulates. And I think that's why it's so important. And I think I'm only, again, like the last couple of days, the last week, I bet we'd say this if we did this again in like 6 months' time. But I feel like I'm only just getting to grips with this now. And I'm starting to ground a lot more in what that is.
Yeah, and passion is at the end of the day an accumulation of energy, right? Because when you
Yeah.
feel passionate, you feel like this
Yeah.
something inside of you, and you just want to
100%.
let it out.
100%.
So yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned that. So you always say that your business content problems are personal problems.
Hmm.
You want to explain that?
Yeah, I love this line. I think anything that someone says, let's give an example. I feel like I'm not getting the visibility that I want on social media. I'm not getting, the views, the impressions, any of those things. There's always a deeper reason behind it as to why you're not getting those results. And
Yeah.
it's always personal related. So if it's visibility, quite often it's something that you're not willing to do in order to get that visibility. And that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, because I think there's a lot of maybe slight stigma, or at least internal stigma, that people get in terms of thinking, oh, well, if it's a personal problem, like that's my fault. It's not
Mm,
necessarily your fault, but I think it's recognizing that there is a root of any business problem, there is a root of any content problem
Yeah.
that is within you, because the external is always a reflection of the internal. So
100%.
if there's something that's not happening in your outside world, it's because there's something happening in your inside world that is either causing you a block from taking behavior that will get you to that place, or I guess it could be embodiment as well as a behavior, in terms of, oh, I actually really believe in this, I'm really grounded in this, and then that energy carries, and that's what's going to get
Mm.
you the visibility.
Totally. I actually experienced this pretty recently before this kind of like burst of growth and visibility that I'm getting right now. But at the beginning of the year, no, like April, I met someone and this person mirrored a lot of my unhealed wounds and triggered a lot of these wounds. And I kind of like attached my self-worth to whether this person chose me or not. And it has nothing to do with my business, but that energy and that feeling of unworthiness and not feeling chosen transmuted into my business, to my content. Like sales dropped, my content performed even worse. I felt completely lost, uninspired. And yeah, that was one of the moments where I thought about quitting. And to be fair, I've had like the hardest months or quarters or year in my business. And I don't want to say it's because of this person, but it's definitely because I had a lot of unhealed wounds and traumas that I had maybe completely ignored,
Mhm.
and I needed to 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 experience that in order for
Yeah.
me to heal, which I feel like I'm healing those things. And one of the reasons why I'm getting this burst of visibility is because I feel like I've healed
Yeah.
those wounds of not feeling chosen, or worthy. But yeah, I just wanted to like say that, even though that has nothing to do with business or content, it did reflect a lot in how I was showing
Yeah.
up and how I was creating content a couple of months ago.
I think that's really interesting, because it's just made me think of something actually that I don't think I quite clicked with before. I think a lot of relating again to this concept of passion that I feel like I've been holding back on before. I don't think I've necessarily had, well, I probably have had a wound about it, but I've maybe only just realized that the reason why I wasn't putting so much passion into anything, or wasn't coming with this energy, is because maybe part of me didn't believe that I deserved it. Didn't believe that I
Mm,
deserved to have fun while building a business. Didn't believe that I deserved to enjoy it, because I'm worried about either like past or family or society back home, thinking like, well, who does she think she is, actually enjoying her life? Because I know so many people aren't enjoying their lives, and
mm,
it's only a projection of their feelings. But I think that's sort of something that has maybe just clicked within me of like, yeah, babe, you do deserve to enjoy this and have fun, and not be stressing about things all the time.
that's beautiful and so true. Okay, I would love to hear, how do you support your clients in healing their own wounds that keep them from being visible online?
Good question. I think two-part answer, both I do and I don't. This is one of the realizations I've had recently, in that I'm not, for example, like a somatic healer. I'm not a psychologist, even though I have a degree in psychology. I'm not a therapist. I'm none of those things who's actually gonna like help you, or even a coach for that matter, who's gonna help you heal. But I think the thing that I do is, because I do speak about like nervous system capacity, nervous system regulation, emotional intelligence, all of those things quite
Subconscious
a lot.
beliefs.
Subconscious beliefs, schemas, all of those things in my content. And the reason that I speak about those so much is because I think that they are the foundation,
Mm,
similar to my journey, right? And again, this is probably just a click I've had today or yesterday. They were the foundation for my journey for being able to understand things on a logic level and on a head level, because I was unable to access anything on a somatic and bodily level, because my brain needed to be able to process those things first in order to connect with my body.
mm,
Because of the trauma that I've experienced in the past, I've either shut down my body or there's not been that connection there. It took me 10 months of therapy for her asking me every single week, how do you feel? For me to be able to even identify how I felt. I couldn't describe it. I had absolutely no idea
wow.
how I felt. And to begin with, I was just saying, I'm fine, or I'm tired, or I'm overwhelmed. And after a while, she was like, Vito, you cannot use those words
Right.
anymore. You need to, even if you have to sit there and think about it, think about how you feel. And it got to the point where I would take half an hour drive on the way there, thinking about how I felt, so that I had an answer ready to be able
Mm,
to tell her, because I was so disconnected from my own feelings.
mm,
And so I think a lot of people who either come from a place of trauma, and trauma is something that happens within you, not to you. So it's not necessarily about what they call big T trauma events, like parents getting divorced or moving house or moving countries or a parent dying. There are traumatic things that happen within you just based on the way that you experience things as a child, based on your developmental awareness and level. And so for me, it's an understanding that that's the foundation that you need to apply first in order to be able to prepare yourself for any of this visibility work or any of these visibility challenges that are going to come up when we're then putting you onto a platform, and the intention is we are going to amplify your voice. The intention is we're going to put you in front of hundreds of people
Or millions.
millions of people, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, you know? I have another story about that actually. Because, and I think a good way to think about it, I almost did this pretty much to a T, this exercise with a clarity consulting client before. And she really was struggling with this concept of if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one, right? With your content said all the time in the social media space. If you are speaking to absolutely everyone, you're not going to be able to hone in on messaging that's going to attract the people that you want to be talking to. She just couldn't get this. And she was like, I have heard this hundreds of times. We had the same coach. She was like, the coach has told me this. People on social media, I can't get it. So I was like, okay, let's break this down. And we spent the entire first session just focusing on this problem. And I took her through this exercise and I said, imagine you're stood in a room with a stage and you've got hundreds of people in there. And there are 10 of your dream clients in there. And they have the money, they have the capacity, they have the desire, they have everything ready to work with you. What are you going to do in order to attract those people? She was like, oh, what do you mean? And then eventually she got to the point where she was like, I'm going to get on the stage and I'm going to shout. And I'm going to like say exactly who I'm looking for. And I'm going to figure out exactly what those attributes are of that person that I want to be working with. And I'm going to find them, because I said, if you've got 2 minutes to do it, how are you going to do it? That was the caveat to that, actually. And I was like, you can't go around just talking to all of these hundreds of people. You might not find a single one. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to shout. And then I apply that then to people stepping onto what is the online stage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's the same physiological, biological response that happens in your mind and in your body as if you were to step onto a physical stage in front of hundreds of people. The same thing when you show up on a camera.
So true. I love that story. And a lot of people struggle with that. But for me, the easiest way to figure out who you're speaking to and what your messaging should be is like, what did you need to hear like 5 years ago in order to get activated, right? Because at the end of the day, most of us are helping or speaking to the person we were a couple of years ago. And I'm also experiencing this with this new phase that I'm going through. And now I'm talking to spiritual misfits. Is a very specific type of person. And just by honing in the messaging like this, I've been able to reach so many people that feel so related and feel activated by what I'm saying. And this is something that I probably couldn't or didn't figure out or couldn't figure out with all my previous pivots because nothing was sticking. But it's because I wasn't speaking to who I used to be. And I'm still I'm still a spiritual misfit. And but yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So now that we're on the topic of nervous system regulation, which both of us love and we talk about it a lot, and it's another of my topics or themes that I tried that didn't stick, but I still love it, and like I embody it, I live it. I think regulated nervous system is your best business partner,
100%.
right? Why do you feel that this is such a missing piece in the online space or business space?
I think it's my initial answer, actually, as soon as you asked that, if I'm going to be completely transparent, is because I think so many of us are traumatized.
We all are traumatized.
We are all traumatized. And I think we're getting to a place now where we're educated enough to be able to understand that that's what it is. And we're lacking the avoidance that maybe our parents had that allows us to confront it. And why it's the missing piece, I guess it goes back again to your external is always a reflection of your internal, and your nervous system literally controls everything that you do. Everything. Like how regulated you are able to stay in a scenario is such a bearing on the outcome of that scenario. Like how calm you're able to stay if you're faced with like a saber-toothed tiger, or how clear-headed you're able to stay in that scenario could literally be a matter of life or death.
Absolutely. Well, that's That's the main reason why we have a nervous system, right?
Yeah, to keep us safe,
To keep
right?
us safe.
I think the one thing is though that our nervous systems have gone into absolute overdrive
Mm.
in that we've had such a lack of emotional understanding from previous generations that we've not had our nervous systems built in a way that allows us to withstand things. And instead, we've just had so much suppression of them or like ignoring of them. And I just cannot fathom how I would be operating in life now if I had not focused on or worked through being able to regulate myself better. And this is coming from somebody who suffered with anxiety, had literal panic attacks more often than I care to admit, suffered with horrendous depression. And to the extent, and this is a really funny, it's not funny, but it is a funny story. So I will just mention it because I thought about it the other day. When I came home, for some reason, I just couldn't get a key, like the key in the lock to undo the lock. There was a time in my life where I would have actually had a meltdown over that. Like, I'm not
Wow.
kidding. I'm not kidding. And it is hilarious. You can laugh because that's how dysregulated I was. But that was a day-to-day occurrence. This was a one-off. I can't remember ever having an experience like that in the last 6 years at least. But before that, it was a daily occurrence.
Wow.
Everything threw me off.
And what do you do nowadays to regulate your nervous system when you feel dysregulated?
I actually feel dysregulated as a sort of a baseline. I actually feel dysregulated a lot less. So I don't feel dysregulated as much these days, mainly because mentally I've been able to get to a place where things don't upset me. And I think that's one of the biggest things. The more you expand your capacity, the more you become regulated, the more you can handle without it throwing you off. So whereas putting a key in the thing there completely, threw me for a wobble previously, now I could have like 6 massive life events like all be thrown at me and you'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
cool, let's deal with this. Great. What's the first one? But in terms of to actually give other people helpful advice, hopefully, I think one of my biggest things, and this is something that I've come across recently, and this might help other people reframe it, is that, and this was something I learned early on in my journey, is that nothing is positive or negative. Every situation in life is neutral.
Yes.
I first heard that when I was maybe 23, so like 6 years ago. I only feel like I'm being able to embody that and implement that now. So firstly, it's understanding that concept, or at least just having that concept in your head. But then secondly, it's Bashar. Have you heard of Bashar?
No.
Oh my God. He's a guy called Daryl. I can't remember what his surname is, but he's on Instagram a lot. His real name is Daryl, but then he channels supposedly from, I don't know, spiritual consciousness. I'm not really sure where. And one thing he said on his videos that I saw the other day was that if you have fear about something or dysregulation or something happens that you don't prefer, right? Some kind of feeling or dysregulation. It's actually a sign. When you're aware of it, it's actually a sign that something is happening either inside of you or outside of you that you do not prefer. As soon as you can register that, you can then, that's then information. And that's no longer actually a negative thing. Having that information is positive because it lets you receive information that then can be used in some way and make a better decision. It's an informed decision. And then that's actually a positive. So you transmuted all of this energy into something that you thought was negative or labeled as negative into something that's super positive.
Yeah.
So say you're scared about, I don't know, you're like worried about, this is a huge thing, worried about money, right? Like I've been there, we've all been there. And you're like, okay, I'm worried about money. I don't prefer being in this situation where I'm worried about paying rent next month. Great, that's information. So what can I actually do to help me not be in that situation? And then you can think of all of the things. And instead of it being like just, I'm fearful, I'm scared, you've actually transmuted the energy completely into, okay, what can I do about this? This is information. This can help me because this is showing me what I don't want. And therefore what I do want is something alternative to that. So I can now work towards that.
Yeah.
And I think it's that mental process that actually can have a massive shift real time if you can do that allows you to go and take action and make different choices instead of just sitting in that fear. And I'm not saying don't process. This isn't like toxic positivity kind of idea, because I'm totally against that. But that's something that I've now developed the ability and capacity to do, Whereas things like that key thing maybe would have thrown me off for several hours and I'd have been in a funk and I wouldn't have been able to do anything else. And I literally cannot explain to you. I'm going to have to write down a journal of all of the things that threw me off because they were insane. I was such a dysregulated child and teenager. Now I can take things like this client pulling out on me and pulling out all of my income and just being like, okay, I don't want this. Like, I don't want this situation. So what can I do about it? I'm not saying don't process your emotions. I still cry. I cry more than ever. Actually, right now I've been crying daily.
Crying is important.
Crying is
I've
important.
learned that
Processing
as well.
emotions is important. But it's not allowing things to spiral and take control
Exactly.
of what you're doing and the rest of your day.
Because if you
or weeks.
suppress the emotion, then that's also harmful, right? Because
Yeah.
it's gonna end up, it's energy
Yeah.
stored in your body,
Yeah.
and it's gonna come out as an illness, for example.
Disease.
Exactly. But I love what you mentioned about and nothing in life being positive or negative and
Yeah.
neutral. And I think I mentioned this to you. I did a plant medicine journey pretty recently, and I'm gonna do a whole episode about it.
Oh my God,
I
are
have
you?
like 10 lessons
So
learned
excited.
from plant medicine. But one of the things that I experienced is the neutrality of life. So I was just there in my journey, and I started seeing different scenarios of my life that normally on a day-to-day will cause me some sort of distress, right? For fear or anxiety. But I was just seeing them with such neutrality. Like I didn't feel anything about them. And I was like, wow, it's like it's this is showing me, the plant is teaching me, the plant medicine is teaching me or showing me that everything is neutral. And I got to experience it for the first time. And I got to experience a lot of other things that I can't wait to share this episode. I already have it planned, but anyways, what would you say are the signs of someone that is dysregulated and that's hiding behind strategy? If we bring it coming back to the online world, online space.
A good question. So a lot of, in terms of behaviors, a lot of people who are dysregulated will be doing things to self-soothe. So going back a little to my journey and then bringing it to here, the way I used to self-soothe was with alcohol. When I was at university, I was just trying to numb any sense of feelings that were going on inside me, emotions that were going on inside me, I should say. Feelings are how we label them. And I was so there's a lot of then toxic behaviors or unhealthy behaviors that people can identify: addiction, alcohol, smoking, even a little that comes into this and bridges this to where I'm taking this actually is overworking. Again, it's a self-soothing behavior to actually distract you from doing the work of being able to stay still. And I think there comes a certain point where a lot of people move into the entrepreneurial space because they realize they don't want to be in that toxic environment that a lot of us have been living in, experiencing, don't want to be in addiction, don't want to be binge eating, don't want to be doing all of these things. And so they move into what is considered healthier self-soothing behaviors. Overworking being one, being addicted to work 24/7. It's not good for you. You're not going to be able to regulate. It's not good for your nervous system. Other things like thinking, over planning everything definitely have been there because it's a need to control. And I think this is the underlying feeling of all of these behaviors is a need to control. So you may go from maybe binge eating and then you stop doing that, but instead you control every minute of your day because then you're like, okay, well, I need to be doing this by this time. I need to be doing this by this time, this by this time. And if anything falls out of place, like I'm done and I'm going to spiral.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is the need to control, I think, is the underlying thing. And that can be observed through anything that needs over planning, looking productive, looking busy, but not actually being productive, performative behaviors, needing to control everything.
Yeah,
all sort of wrapped in
I was
together.
gonna say about that, like if we talk about social media, trying to control everything from how many likes you get, how many views, your follower growth, post isn't performing, I suck, like attaching your self-worth to all these metrics that are completely out of your control is also a sign of a dysregulated nervous system. And also
100%.
when you're hiding behind strategy, because we are both social media marketers and we know that there's a strategy behind growing on social media. But if that's all you do and you're out of alignment and things don't work out, you will spiral and then you get that like addictive or obsessive behavior of like suck, attaching your worth to all of these results. And I think I've been there a lot.
Same.
Yeah, and I think everyone who's been on social media has been in that situation, right?
And again, I mean, that links to what you were saying of me having this preconceived idea that you wouldn't respond to me just because you had a certain number of followers.
Exactly.
Because at the time in my head, genuinely had this complex, and it took me probably about 6 months of being in Bali this time to kind of undo, was in my head, you were superior to me. I was an inferior human being
That's
because you
crazy.
had more followers.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's how a lot of people feel about it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And that comes from self-worth.
Mm.
It's all self-worth work.
Let's talk about spirituality because this is the awakened entrepreneur and this is one of my favorite topics. What does spirituality mean to you personally?
Really good question. What does spirituality mean to me? I think it means believing in something greater than ourselves.
Mm.
That's what it means to me. And I wouldn't have described myself as spiritual at all a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah. It was literally when I came to Bali
Of course.
this year round. Mama
Okay.
Bali was like, babe, we're ready for you. Genuinely would not have described myself as spiritual at all. And I can't remember what the moment was, but I was like, there just has to be something bigger and there just has to be something greater. And I think I was getting a lot more into like consciousness and how so many things are connected that I guess, sort of influence from content as well that I'd seen on social media, probably yours too, that I was like, there has to be something bigger. And then at that point, I think it was with the feminine and the masculine, actually. That was my sort of like entry point into, okay, this is energy, because I don't want to get too deep into this because I'll get flipping cancelled. But like, if you have gender and sex, but you can have a straight male, but they come across as really effeminate. So what is that then? That's something different. And that's an energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so it sort of came from that head understanding of, oh, there's something intangible. So there has to be something else that's intangible too. And that's kind of then what took me to spirituality and believing in there being something greater.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I always say that I've had 3 spiritual awakenings, and the last one that I've had this year, that it was definitely a result of what I went through in April with this person. Like, it really awakened something in me. And for me, spirituality now, it's not so much about what you believe in or like rituals, if you pray, if you meditate, or if, like, those are just rituals. But for me, spirituality is really remembrance, remembering that we're not body, we're spirit. And we're all connected to source. Something that I started experiencing in my third awakening was this remembrance. And I talk about this in other episodes as well. As like, I just had this knowing inside of me of like remembering something that I haven't really experienced or lived in this life. And you want to know something crazy? You know what theta healing is? This is an energy healing where the healer kind of like gets into your subconscious mind and he or she clears subconscious beliefs with like going up to source and clearing them from source. And she said that what I'm doing right now is unfinished business that I have from a past life. So like right now this work, and also why this is kind of like exploding all of a sudden is because I am continuing a mission that I couldn't finish in a previous life. And I was like, wow, and I was just remembering. I was like remembering about something. It's so hard to explain because it's not tangible.
Yeah.
Right? But I have, like, I can, since very young age, I've always loved magic, mysticism, all these like occult and hidden things like
Okay.
tarot and like, so there was like an esoteric shop where you would go and there was like tarot and like weird books and like all about mysticism. I've always been super drawn into that. Now that I think about it, it's like my soul has always been like leading me to that or making me remember that. So for me, spirituality is just remembering because we're all spirit at the end of the day. We just we live in spiritual amnesia. We're all asleep. When you awaken is when you remember.
I love that you say that as well, that you were so interested in that space from a young age, because I was the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of my work that I do comes in at like head level first. It's like, it's not somatic healing. It's not, any of those things. It comes at head level first, is because if you had even said a year and a half ago, you can use your breath to change your state, I'd have laughed in your I'd have been like, breath work, what the hell are you talking about? I was just so skeptic about, like, against all of those things and all of these things. Whereas now I'm not, and I'm getting, we're not in the same place, but I'm a believer in spirituality now too, as well as you, even though I came from a completely different origin, I suppose, when it comes to that stuff.
Something that I ask all my guests, and I mean, I've already asked you this before, but I'm going to ask you again. Do you believe in God?
No, I don't. I don't believe in my understanding of what God is a personified version of source
Mm, yeah.
of what I would call the universe. So
Yeah.
my faith, my spirituality is like the universe.
Yeah.
I think it's a personified version of that, and of it comes. People have different names for it, but if we're speaking about God, it's the Christian version. I actually was baptized as a child, so technically I'm Christian. My mum took me to church when I was young, but I think again, when you have such little belief in yourself, how can you have any level of belief in anything beyond
Yeah.
yourself? Because actually, when you're living in survival mode, actually, I guess it's the opposite because a lot of people believe in something else and create a belief in something else because they're so in survival mode. Whereas I was so preoccupied with myself because I was living in survival mode. I couldn't think about other people, let alone like physical human beings in my reality, let alone a god. Like it was just something that would have been completely unfathomable to my mind. So no, I don't believe in God, but I do feel like people's embodiment of God is having a higher faith, which is similar to my belief in the universe.
Hmm. But so, what is your belief about where the universe comes from? Like, what was the source of creation?
I love this question. Like, it's just like such a deep question. I think I haven't actually thought about this in depth. So I don't know that I can give like a fully informed answer. But from my understanding now, my opinion would be Big Bang of some kind of, I don't know.
Big Bang, but so before the Big Bang, there was nothing. You really believe that there was just like,
I don't know that there was nothing, but I think that I think is so vast and so big that maybe just we didn't exist then in terms of like Earth, but the other things I really don't know in all honesty. But I think there was I just don't think our reality of physical human beings, of course, were around before a sun. I don't know. Honestly, I actually
and we
really can't
will
give you
we
a
will
full
never know
answer.
until we
No.
pass on to
Yeah.
another life if there is something else after we die, which I do believe there is. But I love asking these questions, and I'm pretty obsessed with when quantum physics because
Yeah.
with this like the advancement of technology and science, we've been able to explain a lot of the things that were unexplainable. We know that right now we know that 3D world is actually not real.
Hmm.
It's an illusion. Everything is energy and movement, and it moves so fast that it becomes solid. That there are probably millions of things that we don't perceive. So yeah, that's per- I believe that the answer lies there, and maybe with science we'll be able to find out even more. 'Cause I don't believe
Yeah.
just that the Big Bang happened and it was the beginning of everything.
I don't think it was the beginning of everything. I think maybe it was the beginning of our reality.
Our reality.
I mean, I don't know because our reality, consciousness in my mind expands beyond our reality, beyond the 3D, right?
Yeah,
I think 3D maybe came from
yeah,
the Big Bang,
yeah.
but I think consciousness
Already existed.
already existed because I also believe that we don't necessarily have afterlives because it is all one stream of consciousness. We
Mm,
just move in forms.
yeah.
So, yes, there's an afterlife in terms of how people would put it, but it's not actually an afterlife. It's just a continuance in a different
Mhm.
form. That's kind of my understanding from
Interesting.
binging the shark.
Let's go back to business.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what has been one of your challenges moments in your business journey and how you've dealt with them.
I've had so many,
You tell me.
so many. Have you got a particular like category or area that you want me to nail it down to? Because I've had
Yeah, maybe
tons.
the one moment where you thought, like, I'm just gonna fucking throw everything into the trash and just go back to a corporate job.
I've had a lot of those, but the one that I have had a lot of those, but the one that stands out in particular was this year. So we're like October now, was January. And one of my clients at the time, basically, they'd been changing the scope, changing the timeline of work, and they didn't want to pay on the original payment schedule because they hadn't received any work yet, which to an extent I understand, but the payment schedule remained because, as you know, say you have 4 clients in a month and then they push the schedule back. that's still, say, a quarter of your income in that month. So that income still needs to be paid. Anyway, they didn't want to pay and wanted to leave it like a month and a half to catch up with delivery of work. And I was like, no, I have team members to pay. This was kind of when I was operating from agency model, trialing that. And they just didn't understand it. So at that point, I genuinely thought my whole world was about to crash and burn. And I was like, this is it. Like, I'm done as an entrepreneur. I'm done in a business. I'm done as a reputation. I'm done in everything. This is just gonna end me. And lo and behold, it didn't, because it never does.
It never does.
It
It's
never
true.
does.
Everything is neutral.
Yeah, everything is, but I don't think I've been able to like embody that at that point. And since then, I've had maybe a similar physical situation. So a couple of months ago, I had one of my clients who she's just in the position that she needed to wrap up because of personal life situations. And again, that was income that was removed. And I didn't react anywhere close to the way I reacted in January. And emotionally, it was very different because it was very amicable. It was very respectful. It was very, you know, it was just a much better way of handling it. But I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I guess this gives me so much more time to do this, or I guess this gives me more space to think about whether this is something that I want to be doing. Actually, consequently, it's taken me in the direction, or it's allowed me to move in the direction of not offering account management in exactly the same form anymore, and actually reverting back to a way that I did it a couple of years ago that I really enjoyed, probably got sidetracked because it wasn't the way everyone else was doing it, and was super successful actually, had insane growth with clients, like 2000% growth in a month, like insane growth. And instead this time I didn't freak out and I just went, oh, I wonder what opportunity this is offering me now.
Love it. I was gonna ask you like, what did you learn from the situation, but
Yeah.
you just describe it very
Yeah, and
clearly.
it's just such a different thing. But so now I'm repeating, I guess, similar situations, which life will always mirror things to you. And if you haven't learned a lesson, it will give you the same shit. So if you need to learn a lesson from something, and if you keep finding the same situation popping up over and over again, it's because you haven't taken something from that situation that you need to.
Yeah, my therapist always says repeating patterns are unhealed wounds.
Yeah.
So
True.
yeah.
So true.
So I have this section on the podcast that's called rapid fire round. So I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions really fast, and you need to answer really fast, and then we'll wrap it up. One spiritual tool you can't live without.
Intuition.
A book that changed your life.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Your go-to regulation practice before creating content.
Listening to music that makes me feel like a bad bitch.
Oh, what artist?
I tend to have like fixations on certain songs at certain moments. So at the moment, I am binge listening to "Where Is My Husband" by Ray. Have you heard
Oh
it?
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
You show it to me, and I'm obsessed with the song now. It's so good.
And
Where's your husband?
he's coming. Grandma says he's coming. "Golden" by Hunter. So if anyone in Canggu has heard someone screaming at the top of their lungs while they're driving on a bike,
that's me as
It's
well.
me.
I love that.
Yeah.
One lesson Bali has taught you.
Everything is always fine. I'm even getting emotional thinking about it. Like, you won't necessarily believe it, but everything is always going to work out.
Beautiful, beautiful. I do want to add something on that because
Yeah.
for me, Bali has been a spiral. It's shown me like the highest, the peak of my life, and for me that was like reconnecting with God or Source or Creator. For me, it's all the same. My Christian friends would disagree with me, but
No, I agree that it's the same.
but it's also where I've experienced my lowest moments.
Yeah.
Lowest moments.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's that duality that Bali has taught me.
Duality is massive with Bali, like the feminine, the masculine, the performative, the authentic, all of these different polarities I feel like I've experienced here. And I think that's one thing actually that I've really connected with you over and that I really appreciate is how we've come to develop a friendship where we can be truly honest and vulnerable with each other. And I don't think that a lot of people share that in a space in Canggu in particular in Bali where a lot of people are very performative.
Yeah.
And I think the feminine energy of Mama Bali, actually, she has both masculine and feminine. But I think in particular that in the right spaces and creating the right spaces, she allows you to do that.
Yeah.
I think that's really special.
Love that. What does it mean to be an awakened entrepreneur for you?
One, I don't know if I describe myself that way, but only because I feel like I'm gonna have another awakening and another awakening and another awakening.
Agree.
Have you? I felt like I've probably had one big one with the feminine and the masculine, and then one more recently around conscious love and all of those things and how everything's a mirror. And then I went through a spiritual identity crisis, looking at like everything being 3D, not being real, and it all being a holographic
Which is true.
thing, and it just screwed with my mind. What does it mean? I think just knowing that we're just constant students. I think that's the only thing we can say. And if, if your concept is that we're going back to remembering who we are, then we've just got more to remember and more to remember and more to remember, so that we're going to be constantly learning and to embrace that, because it's never going to change until the day that you die.
True.
Pass through into die in your physical body,
I honestly feel that life is a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
Like you come to life to awaken.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You come here to learn. 100%.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah. So where can people find you and learn more about Be Heard Social?
A good question, because we both just together came up with changing my username, so I don't even know if I know what it is. Amelia.BeHeardSocial on Instagram is kind of the main hub. And then I do have YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, where and Pinterest, but Pinterest less, where I do post different content. So Instagram is the main hub. Amelia.
I'll be sharing all the links on the podcast, on the show notes, and also on the description of the video on YouTube. And do you have any exciting plans coming up for your business?
Well, I guess the most exciting recent shift has been moving away from the account management in the way that I felt like I had to do it, and moving into what I'm calling content conversations. So it's account management, but in a way that allows people to express their authentic voice. And I catch that at the strategy and behind it, of course, and then help them create their personal brand to amplify their voice that way, in a way that feels authentic, original, and isn't lost in a world of AI noise.
One last question. What advice would you give to an entrepreneur who is trying to find their voice but feels completely lost in the noise or scared?
Be scared, do it anyway, genuinely, because there will always be the next challenge. Like we're saying, we're constantly learning. There will always be something else in front of you that you are scared of. So you just have to get used to being scared, because you will continually be scared until the day that you die. Like I promise, I always think that I'm not going to be scared of doing something, and then something else comes up. We normalize the things that we were scared of previously, but you will always be scared, and just know that that's okay. For one, it's okay to be scared. Do it anyway. You said fear. That was the second thing you said. What was the first thing you said again?
That feels lost.
That feels lost. Oh, and is trying to have their authentic voice. I would also say confidence comes from evidence. And the biggest misconception around that is that people try and overreach based on their experience, and then they create cognitive dissonance. And people only do that because they feel like their experience and their life so far isn't worthy enough of teaching from. And that's so inaccurate. It's just about finding what is that thing that you do? What is that evidence? What is that thing that you do that makes you uniquely you, that makes you feel so confident, passionate, that there is absolutely no questioning and no unwavering? That if someone were to challenge you on it, you just go, okay, because you're unwavered by them. Everybody has that thing. It's about finding that thing. And the best way, I think, to figure out what that is follow your excitement, and then practice what I said first, which is you'll be scared, but do it anyway.
Yeah, love it. Well, thank you so much, Amelia.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure. I enjoyed so much the conversation, and doing it in person has been a very interesting experience.
Good.
With my notes here, we have the most spontaneous and improvised setup. Thank you so much for watching until the end. You are new here. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to rate it, and if you think this is worth 5 stars, then give us 5 stars, so that this episode and this podcast gets pushed to more people, and I can really fulfill my mission of helping 1 million entrepreneurs awaken. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.